Welcome back, strongman nerds. You're in for another session with the Jace Man. For those of you who did not sit around and spend the last couple days watching spreadsheets with us, full 10, 12-hour days, maybe you just want to know what the heck happened. So what we're going to do is we're going to recap the last 2 days of competition. There's a lot of information to go through. This is not going to be one of those short 2-minute videos. Now, because I know a lot of you are impatient, and I know this is a TLDR society, and people don't really want to partake in everything. What I will do for those of you is I will put some timestamps in the descriptions below if you just want spoilers and want to know how each group finished and how things wound up. We'll put the timestamps there. But for those of you who want a full rundown, we're going to get through it as quickly as we can. But again, there's a lot of information. So without further ado, let's get started. What we're going to do is we're going to go group by group, event by event. So all of Group 1's events before we go on to Group 2 and so on and so forth. So Group 1 featured Pavel Kordiaka, Tom Stoltman, Bobby Thompson, Konstantin Janasha, Paul Dwyer, and Eddie Williams. The first event that we competed in, or they competed in, I guess we should say, is the loading race. Basically, what happened there was Pavel Kordiaka came out and won the loading race. Tom Stoltman took second. Bobby Thompson took third. Konstantin Janasha took fourth. Paul O'Dwyer and Eddie Williams brought up the fifth and sixth places, respectively. Then we went into the deadlift machine. This time it was Bobby Thompson on top with 7 reps. Tom Stoltman and Konstantin Janasha matching for second at for 6 reps for 4.5 points apiece. And then Pavlo, Paul, and Eddie all did the same 5 reps, which meant they got 2 points. Went to the log ladder next. And you were looking at a victory for Tom Stoltman at 5 and 41.56. Pavlo Kordiaka was the only other person to get all 5 in his group. Did that in 46 seconds. Bobby Thompson, Eddie Williams, Konstantin Janasha got 4 apiece, 4, 3, and 2 points. And Paul O'Dwyer only managed 3. That got him 1 point. We kick it over to the Conan's wheel. The Conan's wheel, this was a tight battle for this. In Group 1, man, these guys battled. Group 1, it really looked like a tough group to be a part of by the time it was all said and done. Again, Pavel Kordiaka wins, picking up his second event win. He gets more than 2 revolutions at 7:42. He did that after Paul Dwyer had put up 7:22. So Paul Dwyer set the 2 revolutions, and then Pavlo went up there and went a little bit further. Bobby Thompson had the next greatest line at 649 degrees for 4 points, 3 points for Janasha, 2 points for Eddie Williams, and then Tom Stoltman took last in this event with 1 point. All day we watch it, we're like, what happened to Tom? Oh my gosh, what happened to Tom? Yes, he only got 1 point, but let's just talk about it again. This was a very, very tough group. 598 degrees is nothing to sneeze at. If you looked and put him with some of the other groups, it would be good for second in many groups. So it's nothing that happened to Tom. It's just he happened to land in a group that had a very, very strong Conan's wheel. So Tom picks up a 6th place finish here at 598 degrees. Then we went to the kettlebell toss. So the kettlebell toss set us up. Sorry about that. Another win for Pavel Kordiaka, picking up his 3rd event win. This sealed the deal for him, basically. And he gets 6 points there. Konstantin Janasha, 2nd place finish for 5. Tom Stoltman comes back to a 3rd place finish now. Paul O'Dwyer, Bobby Thompson, and Eddie Williams round out your bottom 3 there. After this, basically what happened was Bobby Thompson was cruising along in really good position until basically this event, the kettlebell toss, really cost him. So this basically meant that he now had to go into a stone off against Tom Stoltman. Good luck there. But not only did he have to go into a stone off with Tom Stoltman, he had to do it from the 3rd place position, which meant all Tom had to do was match him. To be honest, Tom probably would have beat Bobby Thompson if Tom was in the 3rd place position. But once Tom took 2nd place, it was elementary at that point. So you can see that Bobby Thompson got 3 stones, and of course, Tom Stoltman matched the 3. So basically what that means is, when you look at the total points, Pablo Cordiaca gets the most points, 3 event wins for his group. He cruises through to the finals in first place. Tom Stoltman wins by virtue of the stone off and will also be in the World's Strongest Man final. And that was how Group 1 shook out. Now we need to take a look at Group 2. So in Group 2, you had Alexei Novikov, the other Stoltman, Luke. You had Big Gav Bilton. You had Thomas Evans. You had Christian Haraldson. And you had Fadri El Masri. Once we looked at the loading race with these guys, we saw that Alexei Novikov comes out there and immediately starts with a win. He does one seed things, and he picks up the win in 5 and 52-15. Christian Haraldson behind him, he takes a second place. Really turned some heads there. It's just slightly behind Alexei. Thomas Evans, a third place finish. Luke Stoltman, a fourth place finish. Gav Bilton, a fifth place finish. And Fadri El Masri, a sixth place finish after one event. We went to the next event, the deadlift machine. And so, again, we don't have any times. We don't really know how anybody worked out on that. It's just about number of reps. And in this case, Alexei won the deadlift machine in Group 2 with 6 reps. He probably had more in him. We've seen Alexei do some crazy things on deadlifting for reps in the past. But he only needed 6, so he only did 6. You had Thomas Evans, Luke Stoltman, and Gav Bilton splitting second place, so they only get 4 points apiece. And then Christian Haraldson and Fadri El Masri are stuck down there with 1.5 points for a 4-rep effort. The log ladder was the first time we don't see an Alexei victory. So in this case, Thomas Evans comes out of there, and he gets first place. Not only does he get first place, he had the best log ladder of the day. So 5 and 38.96 was the number to beat, which no one did. After that, we had Luke Stoltman with a second place, Alexei picking up a third place here, and then we had Gav, Christian, and Fadri bringing up 4, 5, and 6. We went to the Conan's wheel, and the Conan's wheel saw a Herculean effort. The Conan's wheel saw a Herculean effort. Okay, anyway. Basically, what I mean by that is Alexei Novikov went out there and got first place again for his group. That's his third victory. And he did it at 897 degrees. He smoked the field. 897 degrees. Gav Bilton had the second best mark at 557. Luke, the third best mark. Christian Haraldson, the fourth best mark. Fadri El Masri gets a fifth place finish. And Thomas Evans went from first in the last event to dead last in this event, picking up 1 point here. That brought us to the final event before the stone off, and that would be the kettlebell toss. Kettlebell toss was won by Gav Bilton. Luke Stoltman picked up second, Christian Haraldson third, Thomas Evans fourth, Fadri El Masri fifth, and Alexei only threw one at 9:56, good for sixth place. Now, before you go, oh my gosh, Alexei only got one. Well, we don't really know how he would have competed. By this point, he had basically sewed up the first place finish for Group 2. All he had to do was get 1 point. So that's what he did. He went out there, threw one, called it a day because he had won his group at this point. That made us go to a stone off featuring Gav Bilton and Luke Stoltman. Luke was in the second place position. He'd taken that over there, and so Gav was trying to play catch up. All Luke had to do was match. Gav got 7 stones. Luke got 7 stones. Luke moves on to the final, which means from Group 2, you've got Alexei Novikov moving on to the final as the Group 2 winner, and Luke Stoltman going to the final through the stone off. All right, it's time for Group 3, guys. Group 3 is really worth talking about because it had a guy who really caused a stir last year. This kid named Mitchell Hooper who came out of nowhere. People were like, "What? Who is this guy?" People know who he is now. And Group 3 was all about Mitchell Hooper. Spoiler alert. So, yeah, here you go. Mitchell Hooper starts out the day winning the loading race at 5 at 42 seconds. A second place finish for Ivars, a third place finish for Matthew Ragg, fourth place Spencer Remick, fifth place for Mateusz Gileszkowski, and then Hicksey took sixth. The deadlift machine was another victory for Mitchell Hooper. Full points for him. Matthew Ragg and Graham Hicks tie for second. They'll get 4.5 points apiece. Ivars and Remick tie for third, giving them 2.5 points apiece. And Mateusz brings up the rear for sixth place here in the deadlift machine. Next, we went to the log ladder. And I hate to sound redundant, but Mitchell Hooper won it. I mean, that's just pretty much the way the day went. If Mitchell Hooper competed, he won. So he gets full 6 points. Matthew Ragg picks up a second place 5-point finish. Graham Hicks a third place finish. Ivars fourth. Mateusz fifth. And Spencer Remick in the sixth place position. Next was the Conan's Wheel. Care to take a guess who won that in Group 3? If you said Mitchell Hooper, you're right. Or you were looking at the screen. Both are good strategies. Just saying his name or looking at the screen. Mitchell Hooper wins it for Group 3, 6 points for him. Matthew Ragg picks up another second, 5 points. Ivars another third, 4. Mateusz gets a fourth place finish. Spencer Remick gets a fifth, and Graham Hicks gets a sixth place finish. This brought us to the kettlebell toss. This would be the first event that Mitchell Hooper did not win. Now, I'm going to give him some props here anyway. He was like Alexi. Basically, he had already won his group. All he had to do was go out there and get 1 point on the board, and he sailed into the finals. He didn't take the Alexi route, though. He didn't go out there, throw one, and call it a day. He went out there and got after it. Now, Mateusz was the only person in Group 3 after Mateusz not doing well through the rest of the qualifier. He comes up and gets a big win here, and actually the best mark of the day. All 7 kettlebells in a very, very, very awesome time of 32.44. He gets 6 points, his one event win, his one shining moment of the week, really. And then Mitchell Hooper went out there and managed to get 6 in a crazy time of 17:18, but he couldn't get the 7th. Also 6 for Matthew Ragg as a third place, 6 for Ivars as well, and fourth place, Spencer got 5, and Graham Hicks only managed 4 over the bar. What this meant was obviously Mitchell cruised into the finals. Matthew Ragg and Ivars had to compete in a stone-off. Matthew Ragg went in with the lead. All he had to do was answer Ivars' challenge. He did just that, but Ivars gave him a battle. 8 stones. So he made Matthew Ragg earn it. Matthew Ragg had an impressive performance all week. We'd probably be talking a lot more about Matthew Ragg if he hadn't been in Mitchell's group. I mean, Matthew Ragg, this big Kiwi, went in there and impressed. By most people's guess and estimates, he probably overperformed, throughout, but he was stuck behind Mitchell Hooper, so all the attention was really there. Anyway, your final from Group 3 will be Mitchell Hooper and Matthew Ragg out of New Zealand. Group 4, this is the Brian Shaw group. Okay, so if you're waiting, there you go. Group 4 features Jaakko Schoenwinkel, Brian Shaw, Rauno Heinla, Adam Bishop, Kevin Ferris, and Gabriel Reon. Loading race was won by Jaakko Schoenwinkel. He had a very, very good performance. And he starts out here with a group win, so good for him. And again, he had a very, very good qualifier. Rauno finished second. Brian Shaw finished third. Adam Bishop, Gabe, and Kevin brought up the rear. Deadlift machine. Rauno and Brian locked horns and tied at 8 reps. And them locking horns and tying was sort of a running theme here. They really traded a lot of points back and forth. And I don't want to do a spoiler here, but made for a super exciting stone-off between them as well later. Yeah, those two were locked in battle all day long. Adam Bishop, third place, 7 reps. Jaakko, fourth, 6 reps. And then the Gabe and Kevin only managed 5 reps apiece. The log ladder was won by Brian Shaw. He got 4. No one in the group got 5, but he did it in 33.99, which was a little bit faster, about 3/4 of a second faster than Yako, who picked up a second place 5-point finish, and everyone else only managed 3. So that was Hainla, Ferris, Rayom, and Bishop in that order. The Conan's Wheel. Jaco Schoonwinkel picks up a second victory for his group, 713 degrees, almost 2 full revolutions, just shy. Kevin Ferris battles up here and puts over 600 degrees himself, 5 points. A third place finish for Rauno, and Gabe, 4th, Brian, 5th, Adam Bishop, 6th. What we heard, just so you know, is that Brian stumbled here. I'm not willing to say. A lot of people, oh, that means he would have won, or what. I'm not really a speculator like others. Supposedly he stumbled. It is what it is, but he takes a 5th place finish here in the Conan's Wheel. Then we go to the kettlebell toss. This event was won, as you might expect, by Brian Shaw. He was the only person in his group and one of only 3 people on the day to get 7 over. It did take him 2 tries. The first try, he banged it off the thing, and then he had to throw it up a second time, and it cleared. But he takes first place here in the kettlebell toss. Adam Bishop takes second, getting 6. Yako also managed 6, but he did a slower time, so that gets him a 3rd place. And then Ferris, Hainla, and Ray Ohm. What this did after Brian puts up a big 6 and Hainla puts up a 5th place finish, this jostled things around. So now it was pretty much going to be more than likely a Yako path into the a victor in Group 4 anyway. He solidified that here. And he needed 3rd place or better. He got 3rd place, so he cruised into the final at that point. He did exactly what he needed to do. The question at that point, once he secured 3rd or better, was what was going to happen between Brian, Shaw, and Rauno. And it was really a case of who was going to get that 2nd place position. And it proved very, very important because Brian got the 2nd place position, which meant all he had to do was answer. And Rauno did not want to fold. Rauno did the stone 11 times. He made Brian work and work and work some more. But Brian, to his credit, he answered every single one of them, and he will be going to yet another World's Strongest Man final. So Group 4, your final will be Jaco Schoonwinkel and Brian Shaw. Which brings us to our final group of the day, and that was a group that featured Trey Mitchell, Evan Singleton, Ethor Melstead, Mark Felix, Paul Smith, and Jean-Smith Corbouf, which I have no idea how you actually say his last name, which is why we call him Coco. I need someone who speaks French to tell me how to correctly pronounce his last name. I will never get it. Probably if they tell me, maybe I can. But until that happens, I don't know. He's Coco. So much easier to say Coco. So anyway, what happened here? Loading race. Group 5 was very, very interesting. Lots of lead changes, and it was very, very interesting to watch. But Evan Singleton starts the day out with a win in the loading race, giving him 6 points. Ethor Melstead picked up a 2nd place finish. Trey Mitchell started out with a 3rd place finish, and then it was Paul Smith, Mark Felix, and Coco. We went to the deadlift machine. The deadlift machine was won by Trey Mitchell. He did 8 reps. Now, here's the thing. He may not have needed to do that many. We don't know. You can see he didn't. Evan Singleton and Mark Felix got 6 reps apiece. So what happened was they go in reverse order in terms of how they perform. So since Evan Singleton won the previous event, that meant Trey Mitchell was going before him. So I think Trey, he went up there and did as many as he could because he didn't know what Evan would do. And so it turns out he would have been safe with 7, but he didn't know that. So he picks up a 1st place finish here with 8 reps, and then again Singleton and Felix get 2nd place. Ethor, Coco, and Paul Smith round out your bottom 3 positions. Log ladder. Trey Mitchell comes out here and wins 2 events in a row. So he gets up a 6 here. Evan comes back and hits 2nd now. And you can see it was really Trey and Evan fighting. And so then you had Ethor Melstead pick up a third place finish, Paul Smith fourth, Coco fifth, Mark Felix sixth. The Conan's wheel. Ethor won this one. Getting 6 points. And that basically put him at that point. It looked like Ethor was in a good position to probably be competing, at least in a stone off. At this point, you pretty much knew that you had Ethor, Trey Mitchell, and Evan Singleton. You just didn't know what order they were really going to finish, but it was down to those three. And so a win again for Ethor, second place for Evan, third place for Trey Mitchell, Paul Smith, Mark Felix, Coco in the bottom three. Kettlebell toss. It was another victory for Trey Mitchell. And what this did is it allowed him to come to the top, and now he didn't have to worry about the stone off. He leaped over Evan right at the end, and now Evan had to go out there and do a stone off instead of Trey Mitchell. Ethor gets 5, so another second place. Evan slips to third place here. And then you had Mark Felix, Coco, and Paul Smith again at the bottom three. Now, what this meant is even though Evan did slip, Ethor did not gain enough points to overtake Evan in the standings. So basically, the stone off was again, Trey Mitchell sewed it up and won here. And then Evan and Ethor had to do the stone off. Evan had the most points. All he has to do is answer. Ethor put up 8 stones. Very, very big number again. Did not want to go home. Did not want to quit. But Evan matched him, and that's what you have the luxury of doing in the second. So basically, when you add all of this up, we compare, and your 10 finalists will be Mitchell Hooper, Pavlo Kordiaka, Trey Mitchell, Alexei Novikov, Matthew Ragg, Jaco Schoonvinkel, Brian Shaw, Evan Singleton, Luke Stoltman, and Tom Stoltman. That will be your 10-man 2023 SBD World's Strongest Man finalist. Is this what you expected? Is it not what you expected? Who will you be cheering for? Let me know. Just so you know, before the event kicked off, I didn't give a podium prediction. There's gonna be one here, but I did tell you who I thought my top 5 would be. And before the event kicked off, I said your top 5 will be Mitchell Hooper, Tom Stoltman, Alexei Novikov, Pavlo Kordiaka, and Trey Mitchell. I did not put them in any sort of order, but those are the 5 that I said would be your top 5. Fortunately for my top 5 picks, they're all finals bound, so I've still got a shot at being 5 for 5 here. Let's tune in. Hope you enjoyed the recap, and we'll see you in the next video.